business.
Welcome to another edition of the Royal Lions UK podcast. This is the 2022 NFL Draft Day 3 recap show. I'm here with my co-hosts Anthony Fitzpatrick, Stephen Collins. How you doing, boys?
Oh, it's been a long weekend, but we've got through it. We're at the end, and we've had a pretty decent draft, so it was all worth it. And now I get to see Steve's lovely face as well, and that just rounds the morning off perfectly.
How are you, Steve?
What the fuck is that?
Don't subject the viewers to that. We want to keep people on the stream.
Absolute filth. Can we move on? Proper football.
Yeah.
I think the
Agreed.
audio listeners are going to wonder what the hell we've just done.
Matt's just basically put a big middle finger up at everybody. That's what he's done.
Just
Should
held
be
up
ashamed.
a porcelain turd to the screen.
And on that note, let's talk about the Lions Day 3. Took the tight end James Mitchell, the linebacker Malcolm Rodriguez, linebacker James Houston, and the cornerback Chase Lucas. And what are you making of the Day 3 class for the Lions?
I think we knocked it out the park. As far as Day 3 picks go, don't get me wrong, these are not going to be like 4 bona fide starters who are going to make us a world-class Super Bowl team. But in terms of Day 3 picks, this was probably one of the best outcomes we could have hoped for. We needed a tight end too, because we have no depth at the position and we just have a lot of squad rotational guys there who are just making up the numbers per se. We needed an actual tight end too for this team, and James Mitchell will be that. He's a sneaky good receiving option. You know, he got a lot of good yardage at Virginia Tech, and he was getting thrown to by Braxton Burmeister, who is not the best quarterback in college football. His throws are erratic, his throws are wild, and yet, you know, Mitchell was able to still reel in a lot of catches. Body's very good at contorting, getting all these difficult wobbly throws out the air. So, you know, as a receiving option, he's good. As a blocking option, he's very good. I know I've seen people saying that he's not, but that's because they're reading generic rundowns on him with all the bog standard words and phrases in there that people put on scouting reports. If the guy can block, there are some technical issues he needs to work out. But again, there are for quite a lot of guys who come out of college, but he is a very good blocker. Virginia Tech like their tight ends to block a lot of the time. He's very good at it. After that, Malcolm Rodriguez, fantastic. I like this as a Day 3 linebacker. I think Steve asked me yesterday morning's one, were there any linebackers left who I would draft at this point, because I was upset we'd not taken one, and he was the only one I mentioned who I thought was worth going after. Just like I put on Twitter, the guy hits like a dump truck. You know, he hits running backs, he forces turnovers, got 5 last year, just because of the sheer weight of how he hits. It just sort of reverberates the ball out of a running back's hand. And again, he needs work. He overcommits a lot of the time. His arms are not the biggest in the world, so he will miss tackles. You mix it with the overcommitting, it's a bit of a dodgy scenario there. But if you can just temper that enthusiasm, as you were, just get him to make, you know, better decisions, more conscious decisions, he will be a really good linebacker at the next level, a really good depth linebacker where we can come in and we can plug the middle, stop people running so much on us, bring him up to the line of scrimmage, get him after the running back. He'll be great for us. James Houston, also love this guy. We've mentioned him on the college football podcast before. He lives in the opposition backfield. His production this year has just been insane. I think his sacks and tackles for loss has been over 40 this year combined. What he's got there, you can play him off the edge, you can play him at linebacker, you can play him at outside linebacker. I feel like he'll be best at linebacker at the next level. So we got a lot of edge guys, but you can bring him into the edge rotation if you want. But this is another blitzing guy who will live in an opposition backfield, and, you know, exactly the type of guy we need, really. And again, another who's good at bringing down running backs. We've got in players who are good against the run, which has been a weakness of ours for years and years and years now. So I love those 3. The last one you would have to ask Ryan about. I've not seen as much of Arizona State this year. I usually leave that up to him when it comes to college stuff because he supports them. So All I can say is he's very old. I think he's the second oldest cornerback on our team because he was a super senior, a sixth-year guy, but works different ways. It means he's got the maturity, the experience. He's played 50 games at college level, so yeah, he doesn't lack game experience. So, at least he's going to come in and keep the youngsters honest, go keep them on their toes, because if they slip up, he could nick a roster spot off them. So I'd take competition there with the youngsters and get them to earn their spot. So I love the day three draft. I do. It's not an overreaction. I just think we've got some really good depth guys with a lot of potential who could be far better than where they were drafted. Mitchell's only there because he was injured. He could be so much better than a 177 pick.
Before I go to Steve to talk about that day three class, just want to tell you guys about the guests that we've got coming up. We've got Graeme Reid at 5:15 Eastern Time. That's in 10 minutes' time. Then half an hour after that, we've got the British Bird Gang. That's a Cardinals fan group here in the UK. And a half an hour after that, our old friend Ryan Dengel from the Bear Down Chicago podcast. So really stacked show for you today. Steve, what did you make of day three for the Lions?
So I think that only the most miserable Carlos Monarez type could possibly hate this draft. Like, for me, and
That's a bit mean to Luke yesterday.
well, Luke came on yesterday doing what I call Captain Hindsight, and he's clearly like quite fixated on like certain decisions and how the front office have approached it. But you've got to like step back and just look at like the big picture stuff. What did we say 3 days ago? 3 days ago, it seems like an eternity. We said defense draft. We've taken 6 defensive players and 2 offensive players. For me, that's absolutely the right balance. We were never going to take 8 defenders and no offensive players. Look at the 2 offensive players that we have taken. As Ant has just said far better than I can, describe why James Mitchell is that fit at tight end 2 with the blocking ability to complement Hawk and Brock Wright. And then we've taken who most people said was the best wide receiver in the draft, and we've given up hardly any draft capital to get him. So just from those 2 offensive picks, we've absolutely smashed it. And then you look at what we've got on defense. We've got, the edge rusher. We've got an edge rusher that can go inside as well in Pascal. We've got the safety that everyone wanted. Maybe it's not the one that one of those kind of top 3 or 4 safeties that we thought we were going to get. But from what I've read over the last 24 hours, Kirby Joseph can absolutely be very serviceable and possibly a starter. And we've picked up a hard-hitting linebacker, a corner. What is there not to like? Like, this draft to me feels so much better than last year's draft, where it did feel that they were kind of like reaching a bit in terms of trying to be a bit too clever with, say, like Levi and Aleem in terms of, trying to unearth hidden gems that other teams are going to miss. It feels this time like we've really had the time for the scouting team to do their research, absolutely go drill down to what exactly we're looking at. High character guys with upside, athletic. I think we've got the second most athletic draft in terms of the statistics. This to me feels like a really, really, really solid draft. As Ant said, day 2, day 3 is a little bit of a throwing darts at a dartboard. But to me, this feels like we've absolutely done a great job.
Yeah, I completely agree. We're going to talk about the UDFAs we've picked up in a later segment, but just looking at the players that we've drafted, I'm absolutely over the moon, because when you are picking up guys late, you either want to add dependable, reliable, high floor depth, potentially low ceiling, high floor depth, or you want to be taking lottery tickets on high bust rate but high ceiling players that, 1 in every 10 times are going to be potentially a world beater for you. And you see that all across the league, that, this guy went undrafted, this guy was a 6th round pick, and now you're signing him on his second contract to a max deal. So if you have a look at a player like James Houston, he's absolutely in that latter mould of someone who when it's all said and done, if you told me that he was cut before, after training camp was done and the cut to 53, I'm not going to be surprised, because we've got a lot of depth in players that in positions that he can play. But if you told me that we signed him to a second contract worth 5 years, 80 million, because he came in, blitzed everyone to hell, came on leaps and bounds, and did terrifically, I wouldn't be surprised either. Chase Lucas is in the former category for me. I think he's someone who's going to come in and provide high floor depth at the cornerback position, but I just don't see in him someone who's going to come in and possibly be your cornerback one. But in both of those picks, you're achieving your aims. You're not just burning the pick. There's a reason why you took these guys. So that's really, really good. Thanks to Cheeto TTV, who's from Detroit and is watching in, has just followed us on Twitch. Thank you for that. Same with Malcolm Rodriguez as well. Very happy with that pick, but it's one of those which is going to be a boom or bust pick for me. Really short arms, shortest arms of a linebacker in the entire NFL now at 30.5 inches. But at the same time, he really shows up on tape in terms of his blitzing ability, a little bit of technical stuff to do, but love that pick. And James Mitchell, I haven't actually seen enough because he was injured all of last year, as the guys have said before, but I'm really excited. The class overall just looks really good, and Jameson Williams for me is just so exciting. I know that Michigan fans are going to be really excited by having Hutch on the team, but we have lacked a wide receiver that, when teams roll into Ford Field and go, how are we going to lose this game? What have we got to protect against? They would have said Hawkinson before, and I don't think that would have struck fear into their hearts. They would have been like, just got to deal with this tight end who doesn't really have good top end speed, but can take over a game over the middle if you don't deal with him. But he's not going to burn you over the top. Jameson Williams is the first guy we've had since Megatron who's going to elicit that sort of fear. And being able to command that attention is going to make things easier in the run game. It's going to make things easier over the middle for Amon-Ra St. Brown, for Hawkinson, and it's going to make things easier for DJ Chark too. Like, it's a signing that needed to happen. And if we didn't trade up, and we took Christian Watson at 32, you're drafting someone that you hope might be close to being that good. There's no certainty that's going to be the case. But if Jameson Williams comes in right now and plays like he did at Alabama, we've got a great player already, and he could still come on leaps and bounds. He's got work to do too. He's not a finished product, but where he is right now, he's an NFL player. He's an NFL starter right now. So this is terrific. Like, I couldn't have asked for more. We could have screwed this up. We have seen Lions front offices screw up this place before. We sat down here and gone, can we spin this to a positive? Whereas I think that Lions fans, if they're so inclined, are going to have to spin this to a negative if they want to, because it's inherently a positive draft.
That's what Luke was doing yesterday. Because I just don't think the Lions fans are ever happy with the draft, and I think that there's more capital to be gained in terms of piling into the franchise rather than going, do you know what? I think they've done a great job, but I think we've got to get behind the front office, because they've done maybe a couple of off-season things. Jared Davis, re-sign him, but again, we can cut him really, really easily. But overall, they've not done anything to raise any red flags to me, and I think this is a great draft. And that I'm not always the most positive one in the group, but for once I think they've absolutely aced this. And when you look at some of the other GMs and front offices, overreaching and stretching left, right, and centre, and giving up draft capital and stupid trades where they clearly not getting value. I think in terms of the trades they've done, it's been fantastic as well. I think we've got steals.
Completely agree. And in just a moment, I think we're going to be having our first guest coming on. Graeme, are you there?
Yes, here I am.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on. It's great to see you again after A tumultuous 12 months. How did you find the draft?
Yeah, it was interesting. I think our GM is quite good at kind of moving things around a little. Traded out of the first round this year. Traded down about 5 or 6 spots and allegedly got the guy he was after. A lot of wheeling and dealing going on. They then used the additional pick to trade back up again in the second round. So yeah, that overall, I mean, you could list our needs, and I think we probably covered every single one of them off. We needed defensive line. We needed offensive line probably more than anything this year, because we lost Marpet and Kappa both. Ali Marpet retired, aged, I think he's about 30, 31, something like that. He retired, which really caught them out. So we lost 2 starting guards. So definitely needed some help in there. We've got some good depth in there already, so 1 or 2 guys ready to step up. But defensive line, offensive line, running back, tight end, and cornerback and special teams were the needs. And we probably just about covered off most of them. I think cornerback is only a need because at the end of this season we have a couple of guys who are starters who will be free agents, and the likelihood is that they won't both re-sign. So we're probably looking for someone for 2023 season. And we've picked a guy in the 4th or 5th round there, who Zion McCollum, cornerback. I'm not sure that, that's a bit of a risk if you're expecting him to step into the first team. But I think overall it's okay. I mean, you look at NFL.com and it gave us an A. I think when you take a punter, number 133 overall, I'm never quite sure about that. That's what our punter who takes kickoffs, as most of them do these days, made a complete hash of it last game of the season there. I think he put 2 straight out of bounds against the Rams in the NFC kind of playoff game.
That was Ryan Suckup, wasn't it? I remember that.
No, Brad Pinion. Brad Pinion is the punter who did that. Suckup as a kicker. And as good as both had been the previous couple of years, I think the writing was on the wall, certainly for Pinion. And to be honest with you, Suckup probably needs a good season this year to be kept on as well. I mean, the kicker and the punter's life is precarious in the NFL. It doesn't take much for these guys in the not so much the kicker, it's really high pressure, but I mean, I thought for a punter to kick a ball straight out of bounds on a kickoff and then repeat it, you're really asking for trouble there. So I guess sometimes think it's a bit of a waste taking a kicker or a punter that high up in the draft, but we trust in our general manager. He's pulled off some incredible stunts in the draft over the last few years. We've got 3 or 4 starters still who came out of the 3rd, 4th round. We'll not count our quarterback who came in about the 5th round or whatever it was, position 199, Mr. Brady. But certainly a few of the cornerbacks and the linemen that we've got have come out of the lower rounds. He's done really well. So I think in Jason Light we trust. I think we move forward on that basis.
I think Zion McCollum is one of the most interesting players in this draft because he was a really late riser, because he was a kind of a combine hero, wasn't he? He came out and tested off the charts, but extremely raw. Kind of reminds me of what we tried to take in Ifeatu Melifonwu last year, just rangy, fast, but needs some coaching.
I think you're right. And last year we took Joe Tryon Shoyinka. We added the Shoyinka bit midway through last season, but Joe Tryon, he came in with really no play in the year, but the final year of college he didn't really play, and it was a bit of a risk, but it was that kind of potential that they saw in him, and he backed up Jason Pierre-Paul mostly this year. He spotted, but showed some absolutely fantastic potential. I think he ended with 4 or 5 sacks, but as the season wore on, you could see him getting so close. He was just laying a hand on the quarterback just as the ball went away. So I think he's that type of guy, although we picked him in the 1st round last year, but he's that same type of guy that you're looking for the upside, and possibly with McCollum too. I just always feel that far down, it's always that little bit of a gamble.
I mean, you made some interesting picks. I know that Ant had some thoughts about Luke Gadecki because like you
Yeah,
said, you traded up for him, but he's
yeah.
not the guy from Central Michigan that was expected to be the first tackle off the board, was he, Ant? That was meant to be Bernard Ryman.
Oh, whoa, whoa! Graham's not met me before. Don't have him thinking that I'm slagging off the Bucks draft picks here.
You can listen. There's plenty of Tampa Bay Buccaneers fans all over Twitter slagging off the Bucks draft picks this year. There's a lot of people not very happy with it. Yeah, it's
So
bizarre.
yeah, I had Godecker I think he was a 4th-round pick on mine, but I thought but Central Michigan had 2 really good tackles this year. The Bernard Raymond, the big left tackle, Godecker, the right one. I actually wanted to draft Godecker here. I think he's going to be a really good offensive lineman at the next level. I think
I think what they see in him, I think they see a real attitude in him, and that's the type of guy they want up front. We've got Ryan Jensen in the middle of the offensive line who is an absolute lunatic when he gets on that field. I mean, he's mad. He's in there mixing it up, causing absolute chaos. He must have drawn about a penalty, at least one penalty in every game by winding up the players in the other team so much. He's just got a tremendous attitude, and I think Gadecki's that kind of guy as well. He's an absolute monster. I mean, just listening to him talking about it, I think he calls himself a glass eater or something like that. He just wants to get in there and
What's a nickname?
Actually, literally, he said, "I just want to go in there and hurt people." You know.
Yeah.
So, well, fair enough.
No, he'll be real good. I call him Spider-Man because when he gets his hands on you, you can't get off him. He will not let you separate one bit. And of course, him and Raymond, they're both converted tight ends. So you have the blocking experience there. You have the work on the line. So no, I do like him, and I think he's going to be good there. And I know you also took our own Ryan's favorite player, Rashad White, the running back.
Really interested.
By Ryan said from this podcast, he says he's the best pass catching back in this draft, and it's not even close. So that's the kind of guy that you're getting with him there. He's been raving about him all year.
That's exactly the kind of guy that that Tom Brady needs and wants beside him. Ronald Jones, who's now left, he left in free agency, wasn't great catching passes in the backfield. To be fair, Leonard Fournette has stepped up this year and has become a much better pass catcher at the backfield, but there definitely is a need for a third down back in there, and I think a lot will depend on him the first few games, first few times the ball's thrown his way. If he makes things happen, he could end up being the go-to guy all season. He could be the guy, but it's really up to him how he develops and how he progresses through the pre-season. But I really look forward to seeing him after seeing some of the clips. Obviously, I don't follow the college game as much as some of you guys do, obviously. But when the name comes up and you've drafted him, you go and start looking, and some of his plays have been incredible. Just slipping through the grasp of defenders, finding gaps where there doesn't appear to be any gap. He just looks incredible.
He's carried that Arizona State team a lot this year because their quarterback wasn't very good. So, I think he's going to make your team pretty quickly, to be fair. I'd be excited to see him there. And as Matt said, the Zion McCullum one, he's got so much potential. And you were saying there you've got some guys out of contract next year. That probably fits your timeline. Obviously, you've got a lot of...
perfect. Well, that's it. You've got a guy with potential, and if you've got a year to work with him and to bring that potential out of him, probably the worst thing that could happen is if we have another run on injuries in the defensive backfield and he gets thrown in there before he's really ready for it. That was really what happened in the first part of last season. We lost. I think our top 3 or 4 defensive backs were all out injured at the one time for an extended period, and we were just pulling guys in from everywhere. We even pulled in Richard Sherman. Just who's there, who's available, bring them in. I was going to volunteer my own services. I'm not really that quick though, but that's a really interesting one. I'm interested to hear you say that about McCollum, and that maybe, as you say, does really fit our timeline for him if things go well this season.
Well, he's played a lot of games for Sam Houston. I think the only knock on him is the level that he plays at, because obviously it's the FCS, which is the division below, but he's got a lot of experience at the level, and he's a bit raw, but you know, we wanted him from us.
Yeah.
We said if we were going to go corner, we wanted Zion. We were
Yeah.
going to take him in the third.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to do really well. I think, like you say, maybe 12 months time, if he develops well and you don't want to pay one of your corners or they're a bit older, bring him through, and it's a long-term success.
Yeah, it becomes a salary cap issue for us. I think as much as anything else, we won't be able to afford to keep them both. That happened this year where we had to drop a couple of guys. Jordan Whitehead would have loved to have kept, but he's off to, I think he went to the Jets. You know, you just can't keep them all. You can't keep them all happy. There's a salary cap there, and we've been doing the trick that everyone's got with pushing money back. You know, so you lower your salary cap this year, but you take the hit in the next couple of years, and there's a lot of that dead cap money going to be floating about over the next couple of years. So we're just going to have to take a hit. We'll not be able to keep the two of them on. So that's maybe the time for McCollum to step in. That would be really nice to see that. Yeah.
I mean, sorry, you haven't said much, Steve. You go ahead.
Just going to ask Graeme, obviously you've kind of bossed the NFC South for a couple of seasons since Brady's returned. What would you make of the activity in the other teams in the NFC South during the draft? Because obviously Saints did a lot of wheeling, dealing. They got Chris Olave, Trevor Penning. Both the other two teams have taken quarterbacks in the second or third round.
Yeah.
What do you kind of make anything you're worried about? Anything that you're quite pleased hasn't happened?
I'm pleased that the Saints didn't take another quarterback, so they're stuck with Jameis Winston this year. Yes.
Unless they trade for Baker Mayfield.
No, I'm not too bothered about that either, to be honest with you. We'll chase him up the street. Don't worry about that. I think they all got better. I think our division got better. Just looked at all the other three of them, and I think they all did improve. But they were starting from a long way back. And I think that we should still win this division this year. Last year was actually, believe it or not, we didn't win it. We didn't win the division the year we won the Super Bowl 2 years ago. We came through the wild card that year. And last year's the first time we've won the NFC South for about 12 or 13 years or something like that. But I think we must be favourites again this year. Thankfully, you know, Brady retiring and then unretiring, that helps. We're sitting on the Kyle Trask, the quarterback who we drafted last year out of Florida Gators, and he never even suited up last season, and he came out the second round, and I think he's being groomed, and I think we'll see him step up as the backup to Brady this year. Although we have signed Gabbert again, but not sure how it'll pan out. But I think Trask is expected to step up now and be the backup. And I can only see Brady work another, maybe this being his last season with us, and hopefully Trask is ready then to step up. But that was the position we found ourselves in last year when we were really drafting for depth. We weren't expecting these guys just to step in straight away, and to an extent, a lesser extent this year, it's the same. There's a little bit of depth in there, albeit we probably are going to need Gadecki to step in. We probably will need Logan Hall to get into the rotation in the defensive line. Especially when you go through those dog days of summer in Tampa and it's 120 degrees in the stadium, you're not going to play your big defensive lineman every play. You're going to rotate things, and you're going to expect a bit of help from the backups throughout the games. So, and Rashad White, can't wait to see him. Really can't wait to see him get Brady to drop back and chuck a pass out to him and see what he does. So yeah, interesting season ahead.
Just had a comment on YouTube from Dominic Hodgkinson, says Mr. Graeme
Oh,
Reid,
don't listen to him. Don't listen to him. He's an idiot.
He said, Graeme Reid, Bucks UK legend, speaking sense as ever. So maybe it's a bit more complimentary than you were expecting.
He's on the vodka.
I actually had a question about Rashad White and about a couple of other draft picks you had. So taking a running back when you have Fournette, Keyshawn Vaughn, and Giovanni Bernard on the roster, is he going to be slotting in at running back too? I mean, Bernard's one of those guys that I really, really like. He seems to perform every time he hits the field. Keyshawn Vaughn too seems to do really well, and Fournette's clearly your RB1 for me. So where's he fitting in there?
Good question. I'm quite high on Keyshawn Vaughn as well. I quite like him. We didn't see too much of him last season, but when he did come in, I felt he did really well. And I was actually when Ronald Jones left, I kind of expected him to step up, Vaughan to step up into that spot at RB2. But I think White will come in as the number 2. I think he'll be looking to come through training camp, and if he does have a good training camp, I think he'll step into that number 2 slot. But again, you're only an injury away from, him being number 1 and Vaughan being number 2. I mean, we know better than anyone about injuries. Last season, we were goodness gracious, wide receivers. We were down to our Mike Evans played, I think, pretty much the whole of last season, but
you were playing Rashad Perryman, who we cut, and we had the worst wide receiver core in the NFL, and you were playing him as a starter.
He was our number 2. He was our number 2 guy by the end of the season. He really was.
And he scored a couple of touchdowns for you as well.
He scored an absolute cracker of touchdown. It was we were 24-3 up on Buffalo or something at half time, and they came back and tied it at 27-all. And we went to overtime, and Perryman caught a 65-yard touchdown pass from Brady. He
never caught anything for us.
No, caught a goal, did he? He caught the ball. To be fair, I mean, he absolutely sprinted down the side. He outran the defensive back and took the ball in. And that was Brady's 700th touchdown or something like that, all time, including playoffs. That was his 700th touchdown. And I don't know if you saw the story when Mike Evans had chucked the ball away for the 600th regular season touchdown. And if you ever see that touchdown again, there's a guy who'd been tasked with, if Brady throws this touchdown, you have to get that ball. And Perryman went into the end zone and chucked the ball on the ground. And this wee guy ran over, jumped on the ball and ran off with it, just in case somebody kicked it into the crowd, because it cost the club tens of thousands of dollars to get that ball back. Like the guy that had that ball from that Evans gave away got an absolutely incredible package of gear from the club. So yeah, but that was Rashad Perryman's top moment. Yeah, he did pretty well. Did pretty well under the circumstances. But
yeah, and you've taken 2 tight ends in this draft as well. So Kadon with the 4th pick at 106, but then also O'Keefe at 218. And you've already got Cameron Brate, but Brady and Gronk always seem to come as a pair, but Gronk hasn't re-signed. Taking 2 tight ends, do you think this means that Gronk might actually not be returning?
No, I think Gronk is coming back. I think he'll be back. I think Brate will be number 2, and Otton will look to be number 3. Play a lot of kind of at least 2 tight end sets. So again, Gronk was injured for about 4 or 5 games last season. So again, you're looking for depth there. Cam Brate is an absolute fan favourite. He's been outstanding. He's taken actual pay cuts, not just restructure, but he's taken pay cuts to help the team with the cap over the last few seasons. He's always done everything he's been asked to do. He's done nothing but catch passes and catch touchdowns, and he's been absolutely outstanding. So he's glad to see him back for the second year. I think Gronk will resign. I think the feeling within the camp is that he will come back again next year, and I think we miss him if he's not there. That's a big miss. As good as Cam Brate is, when Gronkowski was out last season, there was
unplayable.
There was a noticeable drop-off, a real noticeable drop-off. And as we went through the season, when Gronk was out, Godwin was out, Brown, well, you saw what happened with Antonio Brown, madness. He was gone. So three kind of top really receivers were all gone at the one time, and there was a huge, enormous drop-off in the passing game at that point. So really important, I think, to get Gronk back, and I think he'll come back this year for one more goal.
Any observer of the NFL knows exactly Gronk's MO now, which is to spend the entire summer going, is he going to retire? Is he not going to retire? He just doesn't want to do any work in training camp over the summer. And then like 2 weeks before the start of the season, he's like, I'm back.
It's on Twitter this week there. He was going to, in some party, there's something it's his, he's organised some big party in some tiki bar somewhere, and I don't know where it was. Gronk giving it large, and all right, okay. So he'll be back in a couple of weeks' time. I'm sure he will.
I mean, coming into this draft, with the Bucs, the way they assembled their squad, obviously they got a lot of veterans in when Brady came there to go after and win the big one. And this draft, I sort of assumed that their modus operandi almost would be to start getting long-term successors in for some of these, vet guys in there. Obviously, Logan Hall's come in, the defensive tackle, probably Endama Kong-Su's long-term replacement, Rashad White coming in, Leonard Fournette's there, Cade Otton's come in, obviously Gronkowski. Do you feel like that's what they've done there? Obviously they know that a lot of these guys don't have a lot left in the tank, and the long-term future is now they need to invest in it.
Yeah, I think so. Spot on. I mean, I think Sue, I don't know if he'll be back or not. Jason Pierre-Paul probably won't be. The fact that they've assigned JPP's number 90 to Logan Hall would suggest that JPP's not coming back this year. So we're looking for last year's Joe Tryon to step into the gap. So I think that will happen over a period of the next year or two. I think that's probably what every team tries to do, is to bring your guys through and give them a year to settle in before they have to step up. So yeah, I'm really, especially after talking to you this morning about Rashad White, I'm really looking forward to seeing him. After watching his clips, he could very well step up. Leonard Fournette, I think I'm right in saying is only on a 1-year deal again this year, and he'll eventually probably go and chase the money if he's another good season with us. So maybe this is a good one for Rashad White, get a season below his belt, and maybe he's the guy for next season.
We're slowly coming to the end of our time with you, Graeme, but talk to us about the last 12 months for Bucks UK. What's been happening? How's it been going?
Yeah, been going really well for us. We've kind of trying to get together more often in person, and we've had a couple of watch parties where I think one in London and one in Leeds, neither of which I managed to get to, but were a roaring success, a drunken roaring success. So we've been getting together a little bit more like that. This year, I think numbers-wise, taking into account all the family memberships and whatnot, we're around about 500 members. We've got a game coming up in November in Munich, which the guys have all been on. We think it's the weekend 11th, 12th, 13th November. So we've been kind of pre-booking hotels for that and starting to get ready for that. And it's been fantastic. We've got a really good relationship with the Buccaneers. The COO, Brian Ford, has been brilliant with us. Anytime we're out there, they take us around the facility and let's see what's happening and introduce us to players, coaches and the like. So we have an absolutely fantastic, and we'll have Zoom calls with them before games sometimes as well. So yeah, we've had a fantastic year this year. Just disappointed. Expectation probably for last year was very high, having won the Super Bowl the year before and then brought the whole team back again for another run at it. But reality bites. Unfortunately, you can't win it every year. But yeah, it's been an interesting 12 months and really looking forward to the next one. And if I could say about Detroit as well, I think that's the Lions are a team on the upward curve. I've no doubt at all this is going to be a better year, and maybe this season or the season after, I think Detroit look like they could be a team that are challenging. I'd love to see them knock Chicago and Green Bay off that perch in that division. I hate them. I'm a veteran of the old NFC Central, the black and blue division, when Tampa Bay were stuck with that shit. Well, and you guys, obviously. Many memories of playing Detroit, and neither of us were very good teams, but you had Barry Sanders, and that was the difference between the two teams so often. But no, I have a deep hatred of Green Bay, Chicago. So I hope you guys can pull it off soon. I really do.
Music to our ears, Graeme. Let us know where Bucks UK is if you've got Bucks fans who haven't joined you guys.
Yeah, well, you'll find us if you just look for Bucks UK. We're on Instagram, all the usual spots. YouTube channel. We do podcasts throughout the year, weekly during the season, and then kind of periodically throughout the close season. So you'll find us on all the usual channels. Just look for Bucks UK. .org, I think it is the website, and yeah, come and join us. We have good fun. We've got a lot of members, and we have good fun on the message board during the games as well.
Fantastic.
With some sore heads after that Munich trip.
Yeah. Oh dear.
That tells the story.
It's not going to be pretty, I can assure you. We've worked out that it's a 17-minute walk from our hotel to the Hofbrauhaus. So there you go.
Sounds
70 minutes
fantastic.
there and about 40-minute crawl back.
Have a great time. Have a good 12
Okay.
months. Hopefully, we'll speak to you before then. But
Yeah.
have a great trip. We'll see you soon.
Thanks for having me
Graeme.
on, guys. Good to speak to you again. Yep.
Take care.
Cheers, Graeme.
Cheers. Bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
bye. All right, what a start to the day. Graeme Reid, Bucks UK, and we'll be joined in about 5 minutes' time by the British Bird Gang, the Arizona Cardinals UK fan group. But yeah, I completely forget that the Bucks were in our division some 20 odd years ago.
I think it's an important lesson for any guest. If you want to get, plenty of likes, just bring the hate of the Bears and the Packers, and the public opinion will rise with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, let's have a quick look before our next guest comes on at the UDFAs that the Lions have brought in. And so that kicks off with running back Greg Bell from San Diego State, tight end Derek Dees of San Jose State, worth $100,000 guaranteed. Tight end Nolan Given from Southeastern Louisiana, he's been given a $10,000 signing bonus. Wide receiver Corey Sutton from Appalachian State, wide receiver Khalil Pimpleton from Central Michigan, and wide receiver Josh Johnson from Tulsa, who was very highly regarded, I know. The offensive tackle Arbina Eze from TCU, he's been given a deal worth $170,000 guaranteed. Offensive lineman Zane Obeid, he's a bit of a Raz monster from Ferris State. The guard Kevin Jarvis from Michigan State, but that's unconfirmed at the moment apparently. Defensive tackle Demetrius Taylor from Appalachian State. Cornerback Cedric Boswell from Miami of Ohio. And cornerback Jermaine Waller from Virginia Tech. That's all according to the UDFA tracker from Pride of Detroit. Couple of highlights there, and from I know there was one in particular that you were looking forward to.
Oh yeah, I want to make D's nuts jokes all season. So if Derek D's gets the team, then that'll be just pure gold Twitter content. But serious face on here, there are some. I think for me, I've already zeroed in on 3 of them who I reckon could make the roster if we're going to go out of these. So see, you've got Khalil Pimpleton, the Central Michigan receiver. He is a Swiss Army knife of a wide receiver. Gives you a huge special teams upside. Is a good receiver in his own right. He's put up some good stats at that Central Michigan side, and just the scheme versatility he can give you. He can, and I know our wide receiver room is kind of stacked at the minutes, but at a very minimum, I would expect him to be able to fight for a place on that practice squad and to be developed and to be brought up in the long term into this team. So I'm looking forward to seeing how he does. Josh Johnson, the Tulsa wide receiver, I had him. We were asked a question by Ash on the college podcast earlier in the season about sleeper guys. Josh Johnson was one of my sleeper guys. He'd just dropped 160 yards and a tudder on Ohio State at that point. Tulsa, compared to Ohio State, are quite a small team and nowhere near as much talent in there. And he had a field day against them. And Ohio State they're just a secondary full of 5-star recruits and NFL level guys. So he had a day against them. He's had a really good season altogether. He's deceptively quick. He runs routes extremely well. His ball security is incredible. I really like him, and I think that he's got a good chance also of forcing his way, if anything, at least onto the practice squad. And again, I'd love to stash him and develop him and bring him up over long term. But Obinarize is the one who I'm really intrigued in, because it's not just because we've given him the guaranteed money, but obviously we need a backup tackle on this team. I don't want Willie Nelson here much longer, either of those two, wherever they are. So he's very raw. His technique needs a whole lot of work. In fact, it needs breaking down and building up from the foundation. And I know he's got a few sort of attitude issues as well. Nothing major, just little bits and bobs here and there. But what he does have is what you can't coach. And I know Steve will laugh at this because he did Tom the other day, but the length he has is elite. He Steve, don't even try and make me laugh. But anyhow, his reach is huge. when it comes to fighting on the offensive and defensive line, the reach you have, the ability to be able to hit the guy first before he can hit you is a big thing. And he has a hell of a reach advantage over most people. You know, he is violent off the line. He is very good at getting leverage. He's very aggressive in the way he does things. You know, he's got those intangibles that you can't teach. And quite, you know, in my opinion, Hank Fraley is outside of Green Bay one of the best offensive line developers in the entire league, because Green Bay just churn out offensive linemen like there's no one's business. But Hank Fraley does as well. I know, you know, a lot of the guys who've come in are high draft picks, but you still have to develop them and you still have to make them the best that they can be. And he does that. And we've seen he can do that with the depth as well. So I trust him to be able to get everything right with this guy. And if you can sort out the techniques, if you can sort out the little bits with him there, he's a starting caliber tackle in the NFL. And you're getting him in undrafted free agency. It's just, you need to be patient with him. But given the lack of depth on our line, I would expect to see him on the roster come the start of next season as a backup tackle and to work his way in as and when we need him. A whole summer with Hank Fraley will do him a world of good. So those are the three I'm really looking forward to at this moment in time. I know a few of the others, but there's some who I need to do a lot of work on as well. But I think we've got some good guys in there.
Tom said, I couldn't put it any better than Tom yesterday. It's all about great length and ball handling.
Yeah, well, you know, offensive linemen don't need to worry about ball handling, do they? So
we have got our next guest on the show as well. Tom from British Bird Gang is in the house. Tom, how you doing?
Not too bad, not too bad. Can you hear me?
Yeah, can hear you loud and clear. How did you find the draft?
Well, I mean, obviously the first round was a bit of a letdown, you know, getting up until like 3 a.m. in the morning and then finding out you've traded your pick away for someone else. So it's like, you didn't need to get up in the first place, but, you know, can't be too mad with who we got in return for the pick. And then obviously the other 2 days, you know, we've picked up solid players. They should contribute. So, yeah, I'm pretty happy with the draft class we've got.
I think that the trade was potentially, apart from our trade up, the most shocking moment of, well, actually both Browns got dealt, didn't they, in the first round? But trading a first round pick for Hollywood Brown, I think it took a lot of people aback. You're happy with the trade, though?
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's had the history with Kyler Murray in the past, and we obviously were going into this draft looking for a wide receiver, but obviously when, was it Jahan Dotson when he went to Washington?
Yeah.
That seemed to be like our last choice. Like he was the only one we were linked to, so it seemed like after he went, we had to put another plan into place, and obviously Marquise Hollywood Brown was that plan B.
Makes absolute sense. And then the rest of the draft, you ended up taking, well, I think everyone's tight end one in Trey McBride, and a favourite of this podcast in Cameron Thomas. So you kind of ended up with day two guys, and Myjai Sanders as well. Day two looking pretty strong, actually. Were you happy with those picks?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't expect us to pick a tight end. Obviously, we're signing Zach Ertz to a 3-year deal and also bringing back Max Williams. But it's like, you know, they're getting on a bit. Max Williams is on a 1-year deal. Ertz is on a 3-year deal. So McBride, obviously, he might not start week 1, but he should contribute in his first year and going forward. But he's not someone I considered, obviously, with like who we already had at the position. So it was a bit of a surprise pick, but I'm happy with it after reading up about him, finding out more about him.
Looking at wide receiver room, is this... So you brought back AJ Green. You took Rondale Moore last year, and I know obviously that you let go of Christian Kirk, and maybe that's what Marquise Brown's coming in to replace. But it does feel like, you know, you still got Andy Isabella hanging around, although I imagine he's probably trade bait once again. But is this showing a lack of belief in Rondale Moore and what he can do? And Antoine Wesley as well?
I don't think so. No, I think obviously we'll still have a place for Rondale Moore in the offense, along with Brown and DeAndre Hopkins. I think AJ Green might be the odd one out, really. You know, with his age, he's only on a 1-year deal. He'll still contribute like he did last year, but I think obviously Kyler's like knows Hollywood Brown quite a bit, so I think he will get quite a few balls thrown his way. and with it being a deep threat, and Kyler Murray being one of the best deep throwers in the game, you know, that should be a pretty good thing to watch coming in up this season.
And what did you make of last year? So obviously you started out with the hottest of hot streaks, winning your first 7 games and 8 of your first 9. But you really tailed off in a big way, including, I hope this doesn't hurt too much, but a loss against a Detroit team that had absolutely no business being there at all, which, you know, we seem to be a bogey team of yours. Like, in different I think coming in, it was kind of widely regarded that your coach was potentially on a seat that could get warm with a bad start, and he kind of answered it in the strongest possible terms, but ran out of steam. What happened, do you think?
I think it was more like injuries catching up with us more than anything, because obviously we lost DeAndre Hopkins, and it's hard to replace a guy of that caliber on any team. Like, anyone would struggle without him. And also we had like JJ Watt, he was out for a lot of the season. Chandler Jones didn't perform as well as he should have done. You know, it was just struggles all over the place, and I don't think you can really pin it just down to the coach or Kyler Murray. It's, you know, it was multiple things that went wrong for us last season.
And looking at the rest of the division, obviously you're in one of the more competitive divisions in football, and Seattle have obviously traded away their franchise quarterback, but you've still got the Super Bowl winning LA Rams, which, you know, comes at some pain to Lions fans, as well as pleasure with Stafford getting over the line. And San Francisco, a team that are looking like they're going to be hanging around like a bad smell. What do you make of how the division looks for this draft, and just how those teams are going to compete with you? Because your team is set up to win now, but so is the Rams, at least, and San Francisco look like they're loading up.
Yeah, I think obviously with the Rams, they're the reigning Super Bowl champions, and they've just got stronger this offseason. So it's like they're clearly the top dogs in the division. Behind them, obviously it's between us and San Francisco, because I don't think Seattle will do much this year. Obviously with Drew Lock at quarterback now, and, you know, he made some questionable decisions in the draft. But yeah, I think we can still, like, we have got a much tougher schedule this year, it looks like, on paper at least, with who we've got to play. But I think we can still fight for maybe second place in the division with the Niners, and hopefully still make it to the playoffs again and do at least a bit better than last year.
You kind of think that you're somewhat less than the Rams are at the moment.
Yeah, but I mean, like, that's pretty obvious, because, like, just looking at their team, they're stacked all over the place, aren't they? Like, there's not really any holes on that team. And, you know, they're well coached, as much as it pains me to say. They're just, like, they're obviously going to be, like, the favourites for the Super Bowl with good reason, because, like, they've literally just got stronger in the off-season.
We were playing a game yesterday it seemed very popular, which was called Shit on Other People's Draft. And we all picked out teams that had a bad draft. I think I picked out the Commanders, but I also think the 49ers didn't have a great draft, because they'd already given up the first round pick for Trey Lance, so they were shorter picks. And then, like, taking another running back with, like, their second pick seems crazy to me. And I know a lot of people weren't that keen on Drake Jackson, the edge they took at 61. What did you think of the 49ers draft? Because I know they've got quite poor grades from, like, NFL draft analysts.
Yeah, I mean, they're another team that made a few questionable decisions. Like, I mean, I didn't mind Drake Jackson. I was thinking he could have possibly been an option for Arizona, but obviously that wasn't the case. Yeah, I haven't paid too much attention to, like, the other teams' drafts at the moment. I was just seeing what the Cardinals did, because, I mean, obviously the Rams, they were short on picks as well, but they, like, seem to trade away their first round picks every single year. I think they've got, is it 2026 before they have one?
Yes. Yeah, ridiculous.
Yeah. And yeah, it works for them, because, you know, they're known commodities they're trading for, but the Cardinals have never been one to actually do that. I mean, did it this year, but that was obviously due to circumstances. But
some team gave him a good quarterback last year. I can't remember who that was.
What was that? Sorry.
So some team gave them a really good quarterback last year in a trade. I can't remember who did that.
I'm ashamed of you doing that, but he's a good quarterback. I like him a lot, Matt Stafford. It's just a shame he's around now.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys took a lot of kind of seemingly good picks against the consensus board late. You're one of the few teams that really didn't do too many reaches against that. So even in the 200s, he took Keontae Ingram. He was regarded as a player higher than where you took him from USC. Letitia Smith, the guard from Virginia Tech, he was meant to go a lot sooner than he did and went to you guys. Jesse Lucchetta, I saw a lot of outrage on Twitter that he hadn't gone before he did, and then you picked him up. And Marquise Hayes was one of the best players on the board for ages before you picked him from Oklahoma. So are you pleased with what you did yesterday? Because it looks like you had a really good day.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have any idea really who some of the guys are. I mean, we drafted a quarterback from, I can't remember what the name of the school was, but it didn't sound real.
Valdosta State, Christian
That's
Matthew,
the one, yeah.
I didn't have him on my board at all.
Well, I mean, I went on the NFL.com draft profile and it was completely empty for him, which says a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if that's a Division 2 team or something, because I've never heard of it. Have you heard of them, Ant?
No.
No. I mean,
I've not heard of it. No, it is a fake school.
Yeah, our college football podcast definitely goes so far. I think they're FCS, and we don't do too much FCS apart from when the playoffs are on.
Any more questions for our Cardinals guest boys?
Not a question, but I just want to say how great their day 2 was. Trey McBride, I would fully expect him to be a starter there very quickly. He's the best tight end in this draft by a long way. Receiving, blocking, aggressive. Love him. I really wanted him here. And then Cameron Thomas will be a starter very quickly there as well. You play him anywhere from the 3 tech to the 9 tech. Preferably like him at 9, coming right in off the edge. The Mountain West creates some tough SOBs, and they're going to love him very quickly there. So, that was one of the better day 2 drafts, despite there only been a couple of picks in there. Oh, my Sanders was bad, but I'll forgive him that. Cameron Thomas he's better than, he's worth 2 of him.
There we go. Tom, any thoughts on the draft overall?
I mean, I'm obviously happy it's over. We can now look forward to mini camp, off-season, playoffs, and then the actual football returning, even though it's a while away just yet.
Yeah, it's a long off-season. Talk to us about the British Bird Gang and how the last 12 months have been for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a strong year for us again. We just continually grow. More followers on Twitter, more interaction, just keep finding more fans as we go along. So, yeah, just keep growing as we do.
Fantastic stuff. I think we're coming to the end of our time, so let us know where to find you.
Okay, we can be found on Twitter at British Bird Gang. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/British Bird Gang. And you can also find our podcast on any good podcasting platform, the British Bird Gang Breakdown. We've got one of those post-draft ones to do for that, so looking forward to that.
Fantastic. Good stuff. I just thank you for your time, Tom, coming on and talking to us about your draft. Really, really appreciate it, and hopefully you have a great year, and we'll speak to you, if not... I'm not sure if we're playing you this year. We seem to play you every year, but maybe not.
I don't think we are.
I don't think we are for the first time in a while, so maybe we'll talk to you in another 12 months' time, Tom.
Yeah, that's no problem. It's a shame we're not playing you because I'd like to get that win back from last year, but we'll have to win.
The win and the tie and the win and yeah. But anyway, maybe it's best for you guys that we're not playing you this year. But anyway, have a good year and we'll see you soon.
Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Cheers, Tom. All right, good stuff. 15 minutes time and we'll have friend of the pod, Ryan Dengel from the Bears Breakdown US podcast. So let's do the little bit of trivia that I had planned because I do think this is quite fun. If I do say so myself. So like yesterday, I've broken down now all of the draft picks. I've taken them against the consensus board that I built. The consensus board is built from Dane Brugler from The Athletic, The Draft Network, Pro Football Network, and Pro Football Focus. So there are no crazy ones. Tankathon as well as in there too. So no people who are going to go too crazy, too left field on this.
But Chris Sims's board isn't on here.
Yeah, so all competent people were on here. And I've ranked where they have picked players against where they were actually taken. The difference is accumulated, and there we have it. I have 573 players ranked, and so if they took a player not in the top 573 players, they got a score of 574 as a kind of nominal best case scenario for that player. In the entirety of the NFL, in the entirety of a draft class, there were only 2 teams to have a draft class where they gained pick value. Effectively, there were at least 1 or 2 picks, maybe late on, which were deemed massive reaches, which really kind of tore people down. Can you guys name the 2 teams that had a gained picks draft in terms of drafting good players across the board, including day 3, which obviously can trip people up?
The Ravens. Because, I'm looking here. Tyler Barty, 196. That's not bad for him. Demarion Williams may have been the only stretch, but Isaiah Likely at 139, that's not going to be a stretch, although maybe the punter might ruin theirs. But I think everything bar the punter, it's either good value or they got above value for it.
So, is it the punter that ruins it? It is the punter kicker that ruins it. He was 379 on the board. They lose 249 places for that, which means that they've lost 182 places overall. Without him, it would be good. Demarion Williams is also a bit of a reach as well, but there we go. So Baltimore, not one of the teams I'm looking for.
What about the Chiefs?
Where are the Chiefs? Got to find them first. AFC West. Chiefs lost 154 places, mainly due to their final pick, Najee Johnson, who was not on the board, picked at 259, lost them 315 places.
I'm going to be honest here. Without a board, we're just going to be guessing 32 teams because it's very difficult to remember every single pick and where they go roughly on a board. we are literally just guessing here.
The only other one I was going to think was the Jets.
No, because the Jets reached a big time on day 2.
NFC East. No, Jets. AFC East. Where are we? Jets. 94 places lost. They reached for Max, Mitchell, and Michael Clemens late. That was 74 and 40 places overall. So all in all, they were very close to being value. The 2 teams that picked the best, the first one I think you could get, which is Carolina. They picked Ike Ekwonu, gained 4 places. Matt Corral gained 51 places. Brandon Smith gained 21 places. Amari Barno, 34 places. And Kalon Barnes gained 63 places. The only slight reach apparently that they had was Cade Mays. But overall, they consistently took players later than they were predicted to go. One more team, which is unfortunate, which is Green Bay. Green Bay. Quay Walker, Devontae Wyatt, Christian Watson, Sean Ryan, Romeo Doubs, Zach Tom, Kingsley Enagbe, Tariq Carpenter, Jonathan Ford, Rashid Walker, and Samori Toure. The biggest value player they took was Rashid Walker late, 155 places gained on that pick. He was meant to go at 94, taken at 249. Biggest reach they had was Jonathan Ford, 115 places lost, but overall they gained 52 places. Other teams also got pretty close, so Seattle only lost 37 places in their draft, but the Rams lost 956 places because their last 3 picks were massive reaches, but also their first 2 were also big reaches as well. New England, the other ones, the biggest losers by this metric. New England lost 929 places by consistently reaching on almost every single pick. So there you go. It's a bit nuts, if I do say so myself.
Patriots draft was just crazy, absolutely crazy.
Yeah, it was. Any information you guys want from this? Now I've got it here. Maybe I can share it. I don't know.
Give a breakdown of the rest of the NFC North.
NFC North. Okay, so Chicago's class was Kyler Gordon, Jaquan Brisker, Velus Jones, Braxton Jones, Dominic Robinson, Zach Thomas, Treston Ebner, Doug Kramer, Jatiah Carter, Elijah Hicks, and Trenton Gill. The last two were, well, actually, the last 5 or 6 are apparently reaches, the last 2 big reaches, lost 620 places. But by the end of day 2, they had gained a couple of places, and it's just they reached a little bit consistently in day 3.
Still a horrible draft.
It's not a good draft for me.
I
Minnesota.
know Ryan will disagree, but it is a horrible draft outside of Brisker and maybe Velas, because I'm more high on Velas than others. But you know, the center's bloody awful.
It's an entire draft for me, which is boom or bust. If they work out, it could be great, but I think there's a high likelihood that they all bust. Like, there's no high ceiling guys there. I don't even think Brisker is a potentially high ceiling guy. Sorry, high floor guy.
No, he is. Brisker will be out of a safety for a long time, which is a pain. But rest of them poor as fuck.
Minnesota, their class was Lewis Seen, Andrew Booth, Ed Ingram, Brian Asamoah, a Caleb Evans, Easy Otomuelo, Ty Chandler, Vidarian Lowe, Jalen Naylor, and Nick Muse. They lost 210 places with just a kind of few reaches consistently, but everyone seemed to be kind of there or thereabouts. There were no like outlandish picks. But overall, as a draft class, that doesn't worry me either. Seen, Booth, and Asamoah are good pickups, but are any of them moving the needle for them? Like, that hasn't fundamentally changed how good the Vikings are.
They do need support in the secondary because Harrison Smith has been a bit kind of overwhelmed and needs help because he's just not got much around him at safety in the backfield. So I think getting Brisker and Smith are going to be a really good combo.
I mean, you know, Seen's good. We like Seen, but we got Jameson Williams, and Jameson Williams wrecked that Georgia secondary when they played during the season. I know they didn't during the playoffs, but I believe Jameson was injured by that point and wasn't playing, which was a big difference between the two teams. Whereas in previous years, I'd be worried about opposition secondaries because of our receiving group. I'm now quite high on our receivers. I think our receivers can go toe-to-toe with these guys and win. So, you know, seeing it is a good pickup, but I like the receivers we've got, and I think we can deal with it. I'm a bit upset that Ty Chandler has gone there. We ridiculed him a lot on the college football podcast to start the season because he did nothing. Sam Howell had no running game, no offensive line, and no receivers, and was getting absolutely killed. But Chandler, the second half of the season, sort of even more than that, probably the last 3 quarters of the season, was a monster, an absolute monster. He's a very tough runner. You know, he gets a lot of yards after contact. You know, he's very hard to bring down. I don't like him being there behind Dalvin Cook. That's given their running back room a little bit more depth. So our defensive line's going to need to hold firm against those two. So I can see that sneakily been a good pick. But outside of that, not a lot worries me.
Any other questions about any of the other draft classes? Because I can just run them all off.
What does it say about the Packers then?
The Packers had a really good one. We have to acknowledge that now, whether we like it or not. The Packers have increased the gulf in the NFC North here.
Yeah.
You know, they finally given Kenny Clark a running mate, which was the big thing they needed. Their receiver class, I absolutely hate. You know, they've taken Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, and Samori Toure. Samori Toure is a really good receiver, and the value they've got for him there is insane, whether the draft boards say so or not. You know, he's carried that Nebraska offense the last few years, and you've seen in the offseason during some of the bowl games, the all-star games, just how good he is. and they've now got some wicked depth at receiver, like we do. But if they hit on even just one of those guys, then we're in a bit of bother. Then I've seen they've gone offensive line. They've gone a lot of offensive line, haven't they? They took Zach Tom. They took Sean Ryan. Did they take Sean Ryan? I think
They took Sean Ryan, Zach Tom, and Rashid Walker.
Yeah. Christ on a bike.
Yeah, so
The way they develop tackles, that is worrying.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got Bakhtiari and Nyman there at the minute, and Nyman had a hell of a season. So it actually confuses me. They've gone 3 tackles, whether it's just a kind of, you're right, you 3, you're going to battle it out, and there can only be one type thing, Highlander situation, except not cutting each other's heads off, just beating each other in practice. Whether it's just going to be that to improve competition, whether they're going to kick one of them inside or not. I mean, Sean Ryan, I'd keep him as a tackle. Zach Tom, maybe I'd kick inside.
I know that Zach Tom was projected as a guard by quite a lot of people, even though when we talked, you said that he was still a tackle. So
I said he's still a tackle, but they may. That's the only reason I can think they might have gone 3 tackles. They might kick him in, but they're not exactly struggling at guard. Josh Myers will be in his 2nd year. They've got Elton Jenkins back. They've got Bakhtiari back. These are all high-level starters, really high-level starters, and it's just I worry really about this. Aiden's really going to need to be good this year, because that offensive line is going to be, Aaron Rodgers is going to be protected by a force field again, and I don't like it. They took a running back as well, didn't they? Who was the running back they took?
They did take a running back. No, they didn't take a running back, did they?
Oh, did they not?
No, they had Jonathan Ford, the DT, so they've double dipped at TT. They've got safety Tariq Carpenter. They've got Kingsley and Agbear, the edge.
Oh, that's the one I didn't like.
Yeah, but I mean, they got him at 179, so.
No, I mean, I like it. I don't like the pick. I don't like the fact that the Packers have made that pick, and especially at that value. Enagbare could have been a round 2 pick, not all the way back at 170, whatever it was. It was, he is again just a guy who needs a little bit of technical refinement, but he's got like the ceiling of a high day 2 pick, a very high day 2 pick, and yeah, Gutekunst has worked this draft business out very, very, very well. I'm really worried about the Packers next year. Bears, I'm not. If we finish below the Bears, I'm going to cry. If we finish below the Bears, I'm going to lose faith in Brad Holmes, because they're a bad team this year, and we cannot afford to finish below them. We have to start winning games and getting ourselves off the basement of this division. And even the Vikings. I would like us to be competitive against this year. I would like us. I don't want them to finish too far in front. I don't think the bridge is that big, especially after this draft. If our picks land in this draft, I think the gap isn't huge.
If
and
you
we
remember,
beat them last year.
Actually, I've got 2 things to say here. First is a really kind of easy, just like kind of hit the ball out the park moment. Super Siren Lions asks, from Jameson Williams and Christian Watson, who has a better season?
Oh, Jameson Williams does.
Yeah, it's not a question. Like Christian Watson's drop rate and he's raw. He drops the ball a lot. He's not a refined route runner. He's got a vertical route tree only, so defend him deep and you've got no problems. Like, the guy ain't DK Metcalf, sorry.
But remember who's throwing to both those guys.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not, Aaron Rodgers is a hell of a lot better a quarterback than Jared Goff. This is a guy who made Marquez Valdez-Scantling look good and got him a big money move to KC. And he's just a speed merchant who's got nothing to his arsenal bar speed.
Yeah.
He's made Alan Lazard into a high-level wide receiver too, when as most of the teams, he probably wouldn't be a 3 or a 4. This is a guy who elevates people far beyond their capabilities just because of how he throws the ball. They don't need to be the best receiver in the world. They don't need to get the best separation. They don't need to have the elite speed and, the great route running and stuff like that. He will find them, whether you like it or not. So that's the great leveler here. But
that's true.
But Jameson Williams himself is the better receiver, but again, playing field is leveled because of who's throwing at them.
So he says,
comes trouble.
Yeah, but he just quickly on the end of this, He says that Adams was also raw when he came into the league, and look how he turned out. But on that point, Jeff Risdon on the Detroit Lions podcast very recently pointed out that after the first 2 years in the league, they wanted Adams out of Green Bay because he was awful. And he only came in year 3, year 4 as a really good player and then the best wide receiver in the league. So Christian Watson could well be Adams, but it might take him 3 years. And on Minnesota, I just wanted to say, I said to you guys at the start of last year that team is sneaky bad and they are going to be awful last year. And they were awful last year. And none of those picks are moving the needle for me. Minnesota are awful this year. I'm going out on a limb saying that they could be 4th in the division this year. And with that, we're going to bring on friend of the podcast, Ryan Dengel. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you guys this morning or this afternoon for you? Right? I don't know where we're at.
Still this morning, just about.
Yeah.
So
it's great to see you guys.
No, yeah, great to see you as well. You have been through some upheaval in this off season personally with the podcast. So tell us what's happened.
So you know what, the Bear Down Report, the founder Mike Page, as you know, this is a lot of work. And try doing all of that with a little one and a job and all those other things. And Mike just kind of needed to take a step back a little bit from all the things that are going on. And the guys at the pod, we just, we really felt like we were building something and building some momentum. And, we just decided, hey, like we would like to keep doing this and just maybe our own avenue. And Mike kind of gave us the full blessing and said, go for it. And so we've started the Bear Down Chicago podcast. And we're thrilled about it. And honestly, guys, I mean this sincerely, as you are one of our first shout outs, because I know while we cheer for very different teams, it's been great going back and forth. And, I appreciate the banter and some of our conversations early on last year. So
great.
Thank you.
No, not at all. It's great to support the venture, and we're big fans of you guys generally. So that's really great. Let's talk about the draft for Chicago, because I think it's going to be one that splits opinion. What did you make of it?
Let's just say there were a lot of expletives in the first couple picks there. The thing is, when I look at Kyler Gordon, I think that was one that a lot of Bears fans would say at the cornerback out of Washington, that they would sit as the first pick. They would look at it and go, hey, cornerback is a position in need. Here's a really good cornerback. Now, this isn't going to translate, but the fact that he didn't give up a touchdown in 722 snaps, like I understand that's not going to stand in the NFL, but that's impressive, right? Like no matter how you look at it, that's impressive. And cornerback was a position in need. No issues with that. When they drafted Jaquan Brisker, the safety out of Penn State, who may be an absolute stud, that's when Bears fans lost their minds.
Really?
Yes. Oh, wow. Absolutely. Well, here's the thing. This is safety is also a position in need, and he is a stud. That I everything I read about him. I love his versatility. I mean, even if he doesn't start, he's an ace special teamer. All those things I like, but he doesn't play right guard. He can't catch a football, you know what? And those are things that Bears fans we have Justin Fields, and the hope is that he is the guy. And, most of us wanted someone surrounding him to kind of help him out, which, I can't be too mad because Ryan Poles ended up with 11 draft picks and, a ridiculous amount of offensive linemen from that pick. But personally, guys, and this is where we're definitely split. And some of the Bears fans right now are going to be, as soon as they see this, they're going to roast me. But I don't want backup offensive lineman. I want a starter. And I didn't see it, so we'll see what happens here.
I was about to say, are you worried about like the lack of help they're giving Justin Fields? I mean, obviously, you're built on your defense, aren't you? You have had wonderful defenses over the last few years. You've lost a lot of your senior guys there. I think I can see what they're doing. They're trying to rebuild that again first. But like you say, you've got your young quarterback there. He got hit a lot last year. You could get hit a lot again this year. Are you worried about how little support they're giving him?
Yes. I'm, if you saw the text chain, Anthony, the text chain amongst the Bear Down Chicago podcast guys, I mean, we're not fighting, but you know how it is. We strongly disagree in this. I think most of us know that the Bears are not going to be a very competitive team in 2022. The hope is for 2023. You guys know about the rebuild, right? Like you've been there before, and Dan Campbell definitely has you guys headed in the right direction. I don't think they hired the right coach. I think I've been on record as saying that. I don't understand, if the development of this team moving forward is about Justin Fields, I don't think they've done enough to help him. Now, I'm not saying that they needed to go out and sign Christian Kirk to a ridiculous contract or something like that, but they needed to do more to get him help, and they didn't do it. And if everything about this team is the development of Justin Fields right now, I'm not happy with where things are. Could they take a turn? I sincerely hope that they do. But as of right now, yeah, I'm not happy about it.
I need to make a confession, Ryan. So obviously it's a long night. We're staying up late into the early hours. There's big gaps between picks. And there's times when morale goes up and down. But at one point in the middle of the night, when maybe morale was at its lowest, I read aloud from the Chicago Bears wide receiver room depth chart, and it really picked up the mood in the pod. It really kind of gave us that extra energy, and we kind of kicked on after that.
So I'm on St. Brown. Am I getting that right for you guys?
Yeah.
Absolute stud. Because I think last year that was the joke that we were making is, who's Jared Goff going to throw to? And it looks like he found someone. I mean, and then of course you guys got Jameson Williams, which, again, I can't applaud your guys' draft enough, to get Hutch. What were the Jaguars doing? Like, I don't understand that. But no, so Steve, your concern is very much my concern. And then to have one of our best wide receivers get arrested for, I mean, it's all alleged at this point, but driving recklessly with a child in the car. I mean, like, it's just not a good look for it. Aquinius Saint, man, too many Saints out there. But our new receiver from the Packers, I know a lot of people are like, yeah, he's going to be great. I don't see it. We have Darnell Mooney, and Darnell Mooney is a very good player, 1,000-yard receiver from last season. And I think he is, I think he could do a lot, but he needs some help, and I don't see it. And I'm really concerned about the development of Justin Fields. Obviously, you guys know quarterbacks are not Chicago's forte. And, if we have the kid, which we hope that we do, I haven't seen enough to surround him just yet.
What did the Bears make of the Velus Jones pick? I mean, because obviously that's the first, they want a receiver. Darnell Mooney's kind of just, effectively he's a wide receiver 2, playing wide receiver 1 and 3 at the moment. Kind of, what were they happy with the Velus Jones pick, or were they pissed off that, say, like, it's in the Packers move up and get Christian Watson at 34?
I think that it's very much the Debo effect. His versatility as a kick returner, punt returner. He's an athlete. He's very raw. I mean, Tennessee's offense is not a pass heavy offense, but they love the upside of him, and especially in that kick returner role. I think there's a lot of room for him to kind of grow and develop. I don't love the fact that he's 25. I'm going to get roasted for this, and you know what? It is what it is. Other Bears fans have said, who cares? If he's a good player, it doesn't matter how old he is. But I do think that kind of stinks that he's a little bit older and he's raw. But I do think, speed is of the utmost importance. He's a fairly decent size receiver. He's not a giant guy, but, at 6 foot, he can make some of those catches. He's got some good speed to him, and who knows what they're going to do. I with Luke Getsy's offense coming in, it's this, stealing from the Packers. I don't know what we're going to have, and I don't know what they're going to develop, but I do know is that they asked Justin Fields, they gave him a ton of receivers, and they said, hey, of these ones that we really like, who are some of the ones that you really like? And apparently they all matched on this guy. And so we'll wait and see.
You said that you took a lot of offensive linemen, and I'm just looking down your depth chart, and I'm seeing something like a tackle 4 and 5, a guard 3, and a centre 2. Like you say, it's not really investing in that starter level quality. Do you think that you've got the coaching at that offensive line area where maybe you can develop these guys into starters, or has that not really been shown over the last few years? What's your expectations for some of these guys later on?
Well, Matthew, the hardest part is that Matt Nagy ruined this our window into, do we have good players or don't we? His ineptitude in terms of calling plays and being an offensive guru. I don't understand how he was still employed last year by the Chicago Bears. He should have been fired the year before. And so it's so difficult for us to kind of tell, what do we have? Some of the schemes, a lot of us really wanted to see the Bears have a much more run-heavy offense. Matt Nagy loved to abandon the run whenever possible. And so as I'm looking at these guys, so Zach Thomas out of San Diego State, I'm looking at Braxton Jones out of Southern Utah. One of the things that you kind of see is, hey, they need a little help in the pass development, but they're excellent run blockers. And so it does maybe kind of think, okay, well, we've got some pretty good running backs here in Chicago. If we give that kind of run first offense with a little bit of play action, giving Justin Fields a little bit of an opportunity, that gives me a little sense of hope. But the fact that they all need to kind of develop as pass blockers, it makes me nervous. Again, with a quarterback who coughed up the ball 22 times last season, Justin Fields showed some amazing accuracy, some unbelievable throws, but also some just moments where you just said, dude, what, like, you're trying to do too much. Please stop doing that. Please stop turning the ball over.
You can't ask him to stop being who he is, though. That's who he was at Ohio State, right?
Yeah, he's an amazing athlete. He's got an incredible arm, and hopefully he can develop into something. I want to see what Luke Getsy can do with him. I want to see what happens.
I mean, do you sort of wonder what the end game is with them? Yeah, I mean, like, your offensive line, you let James Daniels go, and he was one of the good guys on there. And I mean, you guys have what, 100 million in free cap next year, and you think, does it make you wonder, like, well, we've got the money to have re-signed him and got him here, and then we've not really gone and invested in the line there? Does it sort of concern you that that's happened really there, and you're wondering what the end game is with it all?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, the Bears universe right now, the Bears, faithful, we're very split on this. But for me personally, yes, very, very much. I'm very concerned about it. I think that everything is about development of Justin Fields, and right now they don't have the bits and pieces in place to help develop him. But a lot of my friends in Bears universe are saying, well, just kind of relax, because now you have a competent offensive coordinator. You don't have Matt Nagy, and who knows, like you play more to the strengths of your players. So we'll kind of see what happens. As far as James Daniels goes, I think there was a moment last season when Justin Fields was hit late out of bounds, and James Daniels was nowhere to be found. And Tevin Jenkins, who was one of our early picks last season, was right there in the middle and pushing players and stuff. And I think Ryan Poles wants a little bit of that mentality of, you better back up your quarterback. And James Daniels is a good player, and I would have loved to see him re-signed, but I don't know that he's part of their long-term plans. And so, good luck to him in Pittsburgh. I think, did everything right when he was here, and I wish him the best of luck.
I saw some.
I'm just interested in terms of, you just commented about your new coach. Obviously, I know that from talking to you that Nagy was a constant irritant to Bears fans, and you must have been so glad to see the back of him, just like we were with Patricia. But I'm kind of quite surprised that you said that the fan base aren't sold on Matt Eberflus. Tell me a bit about Eberflus, because I don't really know much about him.
Well, let me say this, Steve, that I have the unpopular opinion that I don't like Matt Eberflus. I don't. Let me rephrase that. I don't want to say I don't like him, because I don't know him. I don't know what he's going to be like as a coach. And I know he comes incredibly well touted from a lot of people out there that he's a really smart defensive mind. I just know the team that I love with all of my heart hires the wrong people, Mark Trestman and Matt Nagy. And I want to be hopeful, but I also understand that that we've continually hired the wrong people, since Lovie Smith, and Lovie Smith couldn't get a good offensive coordinator. He makes it to a Super Bowl in 2006, but just could never get that offensive coordinator position right. And since then, we've had some bad football coaches and Matt Nagy being one of them. So I don't necessarily think there are a lot of Bears fans that are down on Matt Eberflus. I just think it's either they're really, really, really high on him, which I don't understand quite yet. He hasn't done anything yet, or they're like me, where it's just like, hey, let's give it a more of a wait and see approach. Does that make sense?
Is it like long-term skepticism because of obviously we have the same. We have a lot of long-term skepticism regarding some things because history says it's just going to repeat itself. Is that more?
100%. Well, and think about this too. Like, when a coach comes out and says some really great things in a press conference, people are like, oh, I really like him now. Like, I'm trying so hard to like kind of pump the brakes with that, because I didn't like the Matt Nagy hire initially, but then I watched his press conference. I saw that his first season with 2018, and I thought, oh my gosh, I was wrong. This is the guy. And, when Vic Fangio leaves, this team it tanks. And so, I'm trying to be much more cautious about it, which I know you guys understand. I want to put my heart out there. I want to get hurt again, but it's not easy to do, guys.
No.
Yeah.
No,
so
absolutely.
as I say, so I know we've needled you a little bit there with some of the offensive line stuff and that, but I know you're at the start of a rebuild. It's a long way. Obviously, we were this position 12 months ago, but we had sort of the shoots of optimism on the horizon after last year's draft. We invested in the trenches. We were looking forward to seeing that part of our game dominate and develop. So I was just wondering, what parts of the team are you like really high on? Like what's promising? What are you looking forward to seeing this year as part of this team? So obviously, like you said, it might be a bit rough, but there's always a place where you start from and that you're looking forward to seeing.
I am really hopeful about our run game. David Montgomery, I think, is a really good player. I don't think he's the best running back in the league, but I think he shined in Matt Nagy's atrocious, terrible offense. And given the opportunity with Luke Getsy, who I think has a greater commitment to the run, it seems like that's the tree that he's coming from. I'm really hopeful that could be the case. And, if you can play good defense and you can run the football, it's boring. I'm sick of it. I want a high flying offense. But it's just, I live in Chicago, so that's not going to happen. If we can do those things, and we do have a supposedly lighter schedule, an easier schedule, who knows what could happen. But yeah, I think that's kind of the big thing is kind of seeing what will happen there. I do think Matt Eberflus is a good defensive coordinator. I do think it will take a little bit of time to transition from that 3-4 to 4-3. It's not nearly what it was maybe 10 years ago. But I think a lot of these defensive players are pretty excited about playing for him. So if we could play good defense, run the football, who knows?
Got a really interesting question in the chat from Michael Lucchis, who says, first of all, my wife was a Bears fan and I had to convert her over time, but I know a bit about them. He says, are you concerned with the approach to trying to retool the team versus trying to do a full tear down and rebuild? It feels like you're headed towards being average and not being able to move from there. That sort of 8-8 sort of. I know you can't do 8-8 anymore, but that's where you're kind of maybe heading towards, where you're going to be good enough to do okay, but never bad enough to flip the field and do really well, if you know what I mean.
Well, I think that's kind of where we've been. We've been 8-8, 8-9, where whatever it is. This last season, I think, obviously wasn't the case, but they've been kind of stuck in mediocrity. I do think that while the Bears front office, Ryan Poles, the new general manager, is not going to say this, that we're in a rebuild, but we are. Trading away Khalil Mack, I think, was one of the biggest signs that, hey, we understand we're not in a win now mentality. What can we accumulate from that? Getting a second round pick was really big. And so, again, I think if you ask just about any Bears fan, except for a few that are really optimistic, which I don't understand. But I think most of us know that the 2022 season isn't going to be great. And it's the insane cap number that's going to be coming around in 2023. The Bears will be able to spend big time. So I think I hope I'm answering the question.
Yeah.
But I think that the rebuild is happening, and we're totally okay with it, as long as, like, people like myself, and I think there are a lot of us out there, that Justin Fields' development is at the forefront, right? It's just everything that we can do to help him as much as possible.
Do you worry about that next year? Because obviously I see a lot of Bears fans say obviously 2022 is a write-off, but 2023, we've got this 100 million coming to us. We're going to be able to spend. We're going to be able to fix all the holes, yada, yada, yada. But, history would say that teams who come around with a lot of cap space are also more open to being taken advantage of when it comes to contracts, when it comes to spending. And the big thing is, because obviously we've done this, the youth at the position. We've got a youthful offensive line, which is in place and ready to go with the skill players addition. Also on the defensive side of the line, we've now invested heavy. Sort of our trenches are young, youthful, and ready for the long term to add. But the Bears don't have that at the minute. Does it worry you a little bit that people are thinking 2023 everything's going to be hunky dory again? Is your timeline a little longer? Or do you think you can do it next year?
I think that in the short time that Ryan Poles has been here, he has been a careful spender. And I think that one of the things that has been said about him before he even got here, that he's just incredibly level-headed. I don't think he's the type of guy that's going to just throw big money at every name that comes across the screen. I do think that if you get a chance on, I don't know, some free agent, big name guard or big name wide receiver to add to it, I think, they, depending upon how the season goes and the development of Justin Fields, how it goes in this, the new defensive scheme, that I'm not saying it's Super Bowl or bust in 2023, but I think that they're going to be in a far better position to compete in 2023 and 2024. Having Justin Fields still on his rookie contract, I think helps a lot. And so we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I think it's you guys know we want a winner. And it's really it's frustrating to watch your team not be able to get it done year in and year out. And if you go back to when we were on the Bear Down Report and you listen to our San Francisco 49ers episode, you will actually hear me have a meltdown. I have to take a pause. I have to walk away from the mic. It's really bad. And you know what? But that's part of being a fan, right, guys?
Absolutely. Let's take a step back and kind of look at the NFC North as a whole. You may have caught a little preamble we had before you came on, but how do you think the other three teams in the division did in the draft? Have you taken much notice of what the other guys have done?
Well, I heard, Christian Watson in the second round. I do find it a little bit funny that the Packers yet again did not draft a wide receiver in the first round. Now, hey, if you didn't find that guy, that's fine, but I mean, I just, I do take a little bit of joy with the fact that Devontae Adams didn't want to play in Green Bay anymore, because of my list of favorite people, that guy is at the very, 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 very bottom. Just number 12. He just, when he goes away, I think we can, you know what? You guys come on over to Chicago. I'll buy the first round of beers. We'll all have a giant celebration when that guy's done. Minnesota Vikings. I think you guys kind of alluded to it. I haven't had a chance to look really in depth in theirs, but I do kind of wonder sometimes what they're doing. Honestly, I thought they let go of a good staff last year. And I don't know. So I think it could be an interesting situation. I mean this, I'm not just trying to blow smoke. You guys crushed the draft. And again, even if it was just those first two picks, just incredible. And I do know that Bears fans are not thrilled about the fact that the Lions are probably going to be a lot better than the Bears this year. Yeah.
Well, yeah. With all due respect, I said that if we finish below you guys this year, and I mean this respectfully, but I would start to have questions I know you guys are in the rebuilding phase, and we're a year in front. But I mean, if anything, take heart from it. Things can happen so quick. This time last year, as Matt said earlier, our wide receiver core is who the hell are our wide receivers now? We've got potentially one of the best depth wide receiver core in the NFC North. It only takes 1 year. The depth that we have. I know the Vikings have 2 great ones, but after that, the depth is a little low. But it doesn't take long. Our defensive line is in the last 12 months is completely different now. We got our 2 tackles last year. We've got 3 edges this year. It's very young, very youthful. The turnaround can happen quick if you do it right.
Absolutely. It's crazy. The NFL is so different in that regard. Is sometimes a player can catch on right away and be fantastic. It doesn't necessarily take years and years and years to develop.
I think just talking about the Vikings, I think this is like a classic example of a team that are like in rebuild denial. And because they've got like Thielen, Jefferson, and Dalvin Cook, there's that belief that they can get to the playoffs, they can do something. But really, the Vikings, it's just a roster with so many holes in it. And, you can see what they're trying to do, but they've effectively gone like defense on most of their draft again. But, they've still got Kirk Cousins. They've still got an offensive line that really struggles to protect him when he's one of the most immobile quarterbacks. And even the defense, Zimmer was just a dead man walking, and I think we all kind of enjoyed it. But they've made a lot of reaches on defense. So I think, unfortunately, despite the kind of first day chaos with the receivers, and the Packers clearly like underestimated the run on receivers, and that we all enjoyed those moments. But unfortunately, I think the Packers have aced their day 2 and day 3 draft. So I think that the whole battle for second place is going to be very interesting this season.
Yeah, completely agree. Yeah, Ryan, we're coming quite quickly to the end of our time, but like you said, you've got the new podcast. Where do we find it? Where do we follow all of you guys?
So you can get us on Twitter at Bear Down Chai Pod. You can find the Bear Down Chicago podcast just about anywhere that you get your podcast. We're really excited about our next episode that's coming up. By the time that this comes out, it may be out that morning. It'll be out Monday morning. We'll just say that with Jacob Infante, who does phenomenal work with the draft. And so he's kind of got his finger on the pulse of all things draft. And so I'll be really curious to kind of get his 2 cents on the 11 draft picks that the Bears have brought in, what he kind of thinks that they did well and what they kind of missed. And so we're really looking forward to that.
Fantastic. Thank you for coming on once again. It's been great to talk to you, and hopefully I'm sure we'll talk to you in the season.
Absolutely. Well, no, guys, we really want to get all of you on to talk about the Lions when we do our NFC North preview. And anytime you guys want to talk football, I'm ecstatic to talk with you guys. Hey, keep up the fantastic work. I mean it. Just I know how difficult it has to be waking up crazy hours to stay up with the NFL, and just just my hat's off to you guys. Much respect for all of you, truly.
And for you as well. I hope all the best with your new pod.
Yeah,
thank
definitely.
you so much, guys.
Good
All right. Hey,
cheers.
Take care of yourselves.
You
See
too.
ya.
All right. You take
Cheers,
care.
Ryan.
Bye.
That's it, boys. Final guest. Review done. That's the NFL Draft 2022.
How many hours?
I think 21, 22, something in that region. It's been a long weekend.
Been emotional. Ant didn't even have a beard at the start of this.
I had hair at the start of this. I've grown that much that my hair fell out, and I've aged. My hair has fallen out. So
Yeah.
I think it happened after the Travis Jones pick. It just all wilted away, and
And on that bombshell,
It's been a great 3 days. I've really enjoyed it.
It has been a really great 3 days, and before we end all this, obviously we've had draft picks, we've had all this, but I just want to shout out the MVP of this weekend, and he's sat here just to the left hand side of me on the screen here, but our host Matthew here, he was meant to be in America during the draft here, and he got COVID at the very last minute. He has not been well. He has been ill. He has been in bed recovering from it. And still, through all that, he managed to get his ass out of bed, and he's been here every single minute of every single show this
Yep.
weekend. Has organised all our graphics, has done all the research, has done all the stuff here. You know, this guy is the MVP of this podcast. He keeps it all going, and you know we are eternally humbled to have you here.
He's
He's gone. He's gone. I'm giving him a comment. No, but in all seriousness, you know, we are very lucky to have you here doing all this with us, because I had to work yesterday. You stepped in. You helped out. You helped out with the guests at the last minute because I have a lot on my plate as well. You've been ill. You didn't have to do all this, and you know, you are the MVP of this weekend.
Yeah, definitely.
Draft picks. So
Definitely.
And that is the last nice thing I'm going to say about you all season. So enjoy it.
Cheers, Ant.
and also to all the fans that have been interacting, because we've had so much fan interaction on various channels. I've been keeping my eye on Twitch, but I know that YouTube and Twitter, we've just had so much interaction over the last few days. So and I think quite a few new names as well. So that's really pleasing to us all, and loads of subscriptions. We really appreciate all of that kind of stuff, guys.
Yeah, we do. And if you have spoken to me on Twitter recently, I will get back to you. I just completely flamed out last night after the entire weekend. There's a load of stuff I need to get back on. I will be on Twitter all day because I'm just having a chill day. So come and chat with us. Come and let us know your draft feelings, and I will get back in touch with you eventually. I'm just going to sit with coffee all day and relax and not move because I am dead to the world.
Yeah, no, I really treasured actually getting a good night's sleep last night, because going to bed at midnight is a lot better than 5 a.m. I found. So
well,
yeah,
I woke up this morning and the first thing I saw was a text from my boss going, "Can you come in and work today?" And I was just like, my heart dropped. I'm like, oh my god! And I was just about to answer it, and they're like, "Oh no, it's okay. Someone else has done it." It's like, oh, thank God. And I went back to sleep. Oh my god, I was so worried that I was going to go into work, but oh yeah, I need a day off and I need to relax. So
yeah. Just like you guys have said to the fans, the guys that have interacted, it's been terrific. So thank you very much for doing that. And just to Ant's comments about doing this, you know, I started the website and doing the writing, you know, a year and a half, 2 years ago, whatever, 2 years ago now, because I love talking about the Lions, writing about the Lions. And I was absolutely gutted when I booked my holiday to find out that it was during the draft. It didn't even cross my mind. It was the only time I could do it. And then knowing I wasn't going to be here really affected me, actually, and kind of made me think, I don't really want to go on my holiday now. And I kind of turned that around thinking, actually, it's just going to be a fantastic trip and don't worry about it. And the guys are going to do a terrific job in your absence and whatever. And it was going to be a great show. I know it was. But being able to be here has softened the blow of not going away. So we've rebooked. We're going to be going in September, and you know, hopefully when we're in Vegas, there'll be a game on or something like that. So that'll be that. It'll be a better holiday for it. So you know that'll be fine. Let's talk about the upcoming shows. I know, Ant, you said you might be doing a college football show next week. Maybe
we'll see. We will let you know. Obviously, I need to have a word with Ryan first. We've all done a lot this weekend, so we may take a week off, or you know, maybe we could do something over the weekend. I don't know.
Yeah,
we will see. But eventually, we'll come back. We'll probably do, because the college podcast is going to take a break. So at the minute, there's not a lot we can do. So the schedule for us, we will be back probably in about a month's time, because we're going to do a breakdown on every single FBS division. There's a lot of we're going to do a lot more breakdowns. So if you want to get into the college game over the summer, we're going to be breaking it all down, the divisions, where to play, the players who are going to be on next year. It's going to be as in-depth as you can get about it. So, you know, that's my next big project to start on now. So keep an eye out for it. Obviously, if you're over there in America, you already know. But if you're British listeners, you want to learn, you know, we're going to do that. And then we'll get on to the stuff in season. So we will be back, but we're just going to have a little break first, because there's not a lot we can do at the minute. But there's a lot of stuff to look forward to with that. But we will do one more show on the draft before we go into hibernation, either this week or the week after. And I know we'll probably do one as well.
Yeah,
we probably go through the NFL a bit more at large, and me and Ryan might break down into some of the individual players and that for teams, and just do a little there. So
just a plan for kind of. So I think the main show won't be on tomorrow. Our normal regular show is on a Monday, but it's been a long weekend, and I think we just need to take some time and reflect. Now we've talked about this draft class enough in terms of instant reaction. sleep on it a week. We will be back a week Monday, so that I think is the 9th of May, and then back weekly again every single Monday all the way through the off season. And
then we will
we
do
will
the
be doing
weekends.
weekend tape breakdown for all of our new players. I think
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
hopefully what you were going to say. Yeah, so
Yeah.
probably Saturday or Sundays we will be doing some sort of. It won't be an audio pod, but it'll be a kind of live stream show on YouTube and Twitch with us looking through tape, picking out bits we like, picking out bits we don't like from our new draftees and places where we can see improvements. So I hope that you can join us for those all the way through. It should give you a nice start into what we can expect from the new Detroit Lions. But just want to thank all of the guests that we've had all the way through. I think in the end we had 24 of the 32 teams represented, which I think is a really good return. We had the same old problems with the same old teams as we've had done in the last couple of years, which is really frustrating because some of them are some of the larger teams. But never mind on that point. To all of the people that we've had on the show, from the Rural Lions to Steve, who's put in a terrific shift all the way through, and Ant, you've been on every single moment apart from work yesterday, and Ryan and Tom and you know everyone that's put in a massive shift. It's been absolute pleasure to do this the last couple of days, and that's it. Thank you very much for listening. Let's go Lions, one pride.
Fuck the
Right.
Packers.
Cheers, guys. FTP.